Hey there, good morning everyone. Chris here with Green Bar Trading, also known as Ghost of GBT on Reddit. Thanks for tuning in once again for our weekly charting and technical analysis video. Looks like we're going to actually have time to get through all of these today. I'm doing this a little bit early today because I had some plans for later this afternoon. So just going to there aren't really any differences in terms of the upvotes versus downvotes here. So I'm just going to actually go through all of these since we have only about 12 of them so far. And if you missed the thread, since I'm doing a little bit earlier, feel free to just post your ticker and whether you're thinking long or short into the comments of the YouTube video, and I will get to it at some point early in the week. I can respond via text. So let's go ahead and dive right in. The first one we're going to do is this brew short, which I think I already have on here. Brew short. So actually, I think brew looks like a pretty interesting long right now. If you look sort of at the weekly chart, we're kind of sitting right at a inflection point. We can see that over here in 2013, it was kind of bouncing off of this $14 level, and then it was rejecting that area in 2015, and now it's kind of sitting back on that area again. And also, if you look at the daily chart, you see that we've just recently bounced off of the 200-day moving average. So this was actually probably a nice buy on Thursday of last week. So I don't know if I would short this right now. I think it actually looks like it might be setting up for more of a longer-term upward move. Not to say that I couldn't be wrong, but it just looks, to me, this looks like, a reversal candle off of the 200-day moving average. So I don't think I would short this right now. If you were going to short it, what I would say is you would want to wait until it kind of approaches this area up here so that you have some resistance to short against, right? Because it's kind of like right in the middle of the range right now, so there's not really any, any advantage in terms of reward to risk right now. It's just kind of right in the middle. So, if you buy it here, you're risking $2 a share to run into resistance in $2 a share. And same thing if you short it, you're risking $2 a share to the upside to potentially get stopped at the 200-day moving average, which is only $2 a share lower. So not really a good buy or a short at this point. But I think if anything, I would be longing it based on this bounce off of the 200-day moving average and assuming it may take out this upward trend line. So there's brew, definitely not a short that I would execute right now. However, if it gets back up towards 18, then maybe you could catch a pullback into the channel for a little trade. So there's brew. Next up, OPHT long. I've actually been watching this for a long time. That's why it's on the top of my list here. And it's a little difficult to see just because the chart is so flattened. But I do agree that it's looks like a nice long. What I'm watching for is I want to see it come over this 515 level. So this has been a tough level for it to get over. This 515 to like 530 maybe has been a tough level for it to get over for almost a month now. And this is something that will happen in these stocks that just get crushed on bad news, right? This company had bad clinical trial results or whatever the case was, and it drops from $40 a share to $5 a share. This is something that happens fairly commonly. They go sideways for a month or two, and then they finally come over this level. A lot of times it's going to be at a round number like $1 or $2, or in this case maybe $5. But it definitely needs to reclaim and hold over 5 in order for this to be a long for me. So that's what I'm watching for on OPHT. I've been watching it, like I said, for several weeks now, and actually I owned it just a few days ago as it came. So I owned it here, right around $5. And the next day, of course, Donald Trump started blabbing again and killed the pharma industry. So back down it went. But it didn't break through this lower support level. And so I think it has a good shot at coming back and trying again at that same level. So again, 515, 525, I think in that area. Once it comes over this high here at 528, then you're going to see probably a pretty quick trip up to 550, this high here from the 13th of December. And then above that, you're free up to 650, and then you're into this gigantic gap. So even from 550 to 650 is an awesome trade, right? If you can get this thing at like 515 or 530, and you sell it at 650, I mean, that's an amazing trade for the risk that you're taking. And if it gets into that gap, then, you know, the sky's the limit, because it can go up to however much it takes to fill this gap, which is $40 a share. So really like this trade. I love the idea. It just needs to come over that $5 mark and hold above it. Next up, BETR, snack food company, I think. Yeah, Amplify Snack Brands. So yeah, I actually like this trade. It looks like it just came into this gap, so this is cool. I love these trades that are on like they're kind of beaten down and they're breaking into a big gap. So what I'd be watching for on something like this, if I was going to trade it just for a quick trade, is for it to, so it kind of broke over this consolidation. So it seems like maybe $11 is a decent support level for it, which I'm guessing was the high over here. Yeah, 10.90. So once it got into that gap, it seems like, you know, $11 has sort of become the support. So the closer you can get it to 11, the better. I'd be watching for what I call a red to green move on something like this, where it opens up at like, say, 11.20. It opens up a little bit red relative to where it was on Friday, and then takes out, say, 11.35 to go green for the day. And that's going to be a trigger for a lot of people that are going to say, okay, now I know it's green, it's going to continue up. And then you get a push from, say, I don't know, whatever this high is here, 11.35 up through, you know, 11.50 or $12 or whatever. So it has some potential. It is a little bit extended, being that it's up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. So it's a little bit extended, but I think because it's into this gap and there's no resistance up there, that's not going to be a problem. So as long as it holds $11, I think it's in good shape. Okay, DCIX, and then Snack, and then Zine. So DCIX is a wild one. All these shippers, by the way, these DCIX, there was Ship, DRYS, Tops, Globus, you know, all these shippers, they all have the same kind of crazy look, right? Where we went on this massive run where all the shippers went up, you know, 300 or 400, or in the case of dries, several thousand%, right? From $4 to $100 or whatever the case was. All these shippers did this, and they all kind of had the same end result. There are very few of these shipping companies that are, in my opinion, going to ultimately survive. But DCIX, the only reason I bring that up is just keep that in mind when you're trading these things. They're trading vehicles, they're not investments, right? So what I like to do on these is wait until they have, you know, a big volume day like this one on Friday, and I just day trade them, right? So this is a 5-minute chart, right? So I would trade, you know, something like this, like one of these little flags that develops, or, you know, even short into something like this, right, and catch the fall back down, because these companies, most of them are garbage. So that's going to be a standard thing, right? They spike and then they kind of face plant back to reality. So the problem with DCIX right now, in my opinion, is just that it already had its kind of this big breakout. So now you have all these bag holders, right, that bought it at 360 or 365 or 375. And so anytime it pops now, it's going to run into all those people that, you know, want to sell. And that's actually probably one of the reasons that it has this big wick on the top, is if you look back, you see a day like this where, you know, it actually closed strong, and then the next day it gaps up. A bunch of people buy this thing up here thinking it's going to keep going, and they're going to get a repeat of, you know, this series of days over here where we went from $2.50 to $25, and it just doesn't happen, right? It just fades away. And so people get stubborn and they just hold on to their losing positions, and it just drifts and drifts and drifts and drifts. And so, you know, you got a ton of people down and losing money on it. And then one time it finally pops up, all of these people that bought over here are now looking for a way to escape. And so they start selling in the 360s and 370s, and that's what drives it back down. So you just have to sort of keep that psychology in mind with these types of stocks. But yeah, the shippers have been good lately. Just make sure that it has volume and stick to only day trades for these. I wouldn't swing trade these just because they always release news after hours and they dilute the stock and all kinds of crazy stuff. So in my opinion, they're not good for swing trading. But there you go. There's DCIX. So let's get rid of those. Snack. So this is definitely not a short for me. This is actually, in my opinion, a really nice long. And the reason I say that is because, your logic for the short, right? They have terrible financials and they're down 32% last week. That's great, right? But that means to me that the trade is over temporarily, right? I'm a short-term trader. So this trade to me is over, right? From the short side. If you want to short this thing, you got to do it at the latest, like on this day. After that point, it's all people just taking profits. So, to me, this looks kind of like a blow off to the downside. So I'd actually be watching for as a long on this thing because it looks like it's kind of fallen off a cliff. And if you look at the intraday chart, you can see it actually started to develop some pretty decent support here around $6. So I would actually be sort of paying attention to this thing to see if it can hold 6. And that line is not supposed to be there. If it can hold 6, you might actually get a nice bounce out of it. So that's what I would be watching for. I do not think this is a short. It might be a short after it bounces for a few days, right, and creates some kind of a bear flag. If you see it do one of these things, right, where it falls off the face of a cliff and then it bounces and then consolidates, now you have a low risk entry where you can short it. And if you're wrong, your stop loss is right there, right? Over here, if you're shorting it way down here, where is your stop loss? You know what I mean? You don't have any real resistance to stop it from going up because it's come down so quickly. So this is actually what I call a parabolic trade. And I actually look for a lot of these, but on the opposite side. So I look for them when they've gone up, like DRYS. A stock goes from $4 to $120 in 5 days or 4 days. That's obviously not normal, and this is what happens. So this is the same type of move, much more exaggerated, obviously, because the percentage gain was a lot bigger, but it's the same type of idea. These things take off like a rocket and then face plant back down. The same thing will happen to the downside when you see stuff like Snack, drop from $9 to $6, and then probably bounce up to 7 or 730 or 750 or something like that, and then it'll start to kind of settle, and then you'll have another low risk entry. So that's what I'd be looking for on Snack. I don't think it's a short right now. I would actually be more interested in longing it. Next up, Zyne, SAEX, and Tesaro. So Zyne, Zynerba Pharmaceuticals, I believe this is a cannabidol company like GW Pharmaceuticals. So, it's a hot industry right now with the legalization of marijuana and medical grade marijuana and all that stuff. I actually like this pattern. I think it probably needs to come over $20 in order to convince me, to actually trade it. I'd be watching for a break above that area. And you can see if we go back, that area is sort of significant from this move over here, which I believe was related to GW Pharmaceuticals phase 2 or phase 3 results. This was in sympathy to that move. So, when it comes over $20, I like it as long as it holds up this sort of lower support. And I think I said this last week also, one of the things that I like to do if it's not super clear where the support is or where the breakout is, as in this case, right? Because we've got kind of lows and highs all over the place here. It's been kind of consolidating for a while. And it's not like a clean flat level at $20. You've got, some highs here in 1994 and then another one at 2036 and another one at 2020. And now you've got these ones at 1945. So you start questioning, like, when does it break out, right? Is it 1950? Is it 20? Is it 2050? Is it over this high? What I like to do when I can't determine the breakout spot is go to like a 30 or a 60-minute chart. And that'll usually make it a little bit more clear. So we can see here, maybe even a push up through like 1930 or 1940. And then your stop loss would be, say, 1840. So that doesn't look too bad. but the ultimate goal is that it needs to bust over 20 bucks and then take out this high. So yeah, I like it. This is a very volatile stock. It's a nice trading stock, by the way. So it's actually it's a good one to trade. It just it needs a little bit of volume, and it might need, a catalyst of some kind. It looks like it had, there is an increase in volume since the first of the year, or the third of the year, I guess. So dig in and see if there was any news on this day, because this actually looks like it might be news related, whether it was earnings or something like that. But overall, I like the idea. Next up. SAEX, that's right. So this is another one that's sort of like Dries and the shippers. Not, in my opinion, an investment type company. This is more of a trading vehicle. And I don't personally see anything on this right now. Same thing with DCIX, with DRYS and Globus and all of these crazy shipper stocks. I like to just wait for, the day when you see this massive volume come in, and I'll just trade this intraday. I won't usually swing trade stocks like this just because they're too volatile. They release news and it just gets crushed. So I don't see anything on this right now. What I would like to see is if it can hold $7. If it holds $7, then I think you're in good shape. I wouldn't be swing trading it, right? But as long as it holds $7, then I think it still has some potential to break out over, say, $8. But it needs some volume. Okay, Tesaro, and then Royal Bank of Scotland. I already have Tesaro on here. Actually, I really like this. So fresh breakout, new highs, huge uptrend. Yeah, this looks good. Let me look. I would put that 200-day moving average back on here. Moving average. Yeah, so we're well above the 200-day moving average, so that's not a problem. Yeah, so it looks like it busted over 150, and now sort of 150 has become the support. And that's a big round number, obviously. You can see it tried to break over 150 and then failed and then kind of came back and closed like in the middle and sort of like an indecision candle. And now that it's kind of shaken everybody out, right? You get a bunch of people that bought it through 150 and then they get stopped out as soon as it doesn't hold. And so it shakes everyone out. And now we've come back for the real move. So same type of thing as on, what was the other one that we were looking at? BETR here, Amplify Snack Brands. I'd look for like a red to green type of move on Tesaro, where we go through this level here. Looks like maybe 157 or 158. It consolidated here all day. So I'd be looking for either a dip in the morning, where we come back to sort of this trend line. So down to like 154, 155, or an open that's just sort of in this area, and then the red to green move to come back through and take out that 157 high. So that's what I'd be looking for. Love the idea. I love the chart. Great volume. This is a real company with real revenue. So good stuff. I like it. Royal Bank of Scotland. I can already tell you I would not trade this. And the reason is it's foreign, it's too gappy. This is an ADR, meaning an American Depository Receipt. So there's nothing wrong with trading these, but you can see they gap because of the difference in the time zones, right? Because this trades on foreign exchanges. And so the US market has to correct for that foreign exchange. So that said, you can't trust these things overnight, right? Because you wake up one day and it gaps down. You wake up the next day and it gaps up. It's not smooth. So I wouldn't trade it. Plus, it doesn't really have any range. I mean, look at it from, on Friday. It had a low of what? A low of 537 and a high of 544. I mean, it's only got a 7-cent range. So, where's the opportunity to make money when the stock only moves 7 cents? Unless you've got a multi-million-dollar account where you can buy 100,000 shares of it, it's just not worth it. So I wouldn't touch this one. Newmont Mining, long for about 12 days. I'm curious as to why you say specifically 12 days, but I don't really see any reason to trade this at all right now. It's just kind of sitting there. And I say this a lot actually with some of the trades that come off of Reddit, and it's just because, these are companies that people know, and it's good. Most people on Reddit are probably thinking of it, the investment type of trading as opposed to like short-term trading, like super volatile stocks like I do, these BCEI and like Galectin Pharmaceuticals or Galectin Therapeutics, whatever it's called. These are stocks that are, they make big moves, right? They go from $2 to $3 in one day. You're not going to see that type of thing on a stock like Newmont Mining. So this I would not trade. I don't see anything on the chart. It's just kind of sitting here. There's nothing special about the volume. It's under the 200-day moving average, just kind of sitting there. So I wouldn't touch that one. 10x long, VSM long, and then I cannot do this PSC AX, unfortunately, just because I can't pull up the Australian exchange, so I don't have any way to look at the chart. So 10x and then VSM, and then we're done. VSM, and then I think I had 10x from something else. So let's look at VSM first, and then I'll talk about 10x. Versum Materials. Not sure. I mean, this looks like it might be a spin-off or something from another company. Because it's kind of new. Looks like we've only got data dating back to October of 2016. So this may be a spin-off of another company. If that's the case, then I would want to look at the chart from the previous company just so I have more data. But just looking at this data, VSM long, I would say, sure, VSM long, but only like, when it gets back towards 29. I don't see any reason to really buy it right now. It actually kind of looks like it's about to break down. Not to say that it couldn't bounce off of this level and head back up towards 29. So if you wanted to, I suppose you could grab it here and just put a stop loss tightly under 27 and just kind of let it attempt to bounce off of that level. But just the way it came down, you know what I mean? It was kind of a big like sell-off. It wasn't really like a clean move downwards. Usually if a stock's going to bounce off of a support level like this, it would be something that's like, it'd be a sell-off that's more controlled. It wouldn't just be like a single, face plant $1.50 a share in a single day. So not really sure I like that one for a long right now. However, if it does come back, it's got a nice clean level over 29. So anywhere up in that area, or if it starts to show some kind of indication of strength that it's going to hold 27, then I would be okay with longing it. So that's good. And then the last one is 10x Pharmaceuticals, 10x Therapeutics actually. So this one has a binary catalyst coming up. They've got I believe top line phase 3 results coming within like the next week. I think they're due by the end of January. So I would not be swing trading this unless you like gambling. But I don't see anything really in the chart, but it's definitely on my watch list just because I do actually think that the trial has a high chance of success just because it's already approved in like 60 something countries. And they've had a couple of other trials that had failed in the past, and they've sort of learned from them and modified their current trials. So all that said, I think that, they might have sort of learned from their mistakes, and they have hopefully a good chance of succeeding in the trial. However, I'm not really a gambler. I prefer to be able to control my risk, and I just can't do that with a binary event like phase 3 results coming out. So that's the only thing I'd be concerned with on this. The chart, nothing special at the moment, but you can tell that there's definitely an increase in interest over the last month or so as people are starting to buy in towards this binary catalyst. The gamblers are coming, and I have a feeling that, if they do succeed, this is going to be a big mover. So it's definitely on my watch list. I'll probably just trade it on the day that they release news and see, if it's positive news, then I'll trade it long. If it's negative news, then I'll trade it to the short side. But that's how I'm looking at it right now. So there you go, guys. Hopefully that helps. Once again, if I didn't get to your questions, if I didn't get to your ticker, just post them in the comments in the YouTube video, and I will get to them via text. Also, as always, I usually throw a link to my free newsletter sign up, free blog, and all of that stuff in the video description. So if you've never checked that out, please do it. It's awesome. If you're looking for stuff that like I am trading, like this BCEI and Galectin Pharmaceuticals, Galectin Therapeutics, I've got a couple thousand shares of this that I just started into on Friday. Just because it looked pretty good. You know, it had some nice volume. It's starting to come over this 117 level. It looks like it wants to push up towards the 200-day moving average. BLPH, right? It's another one. Netflix looks awesome for next week. So what I do is I send out about 5 ideas 2 times a week. I send out 5 ideas 2 times a week that are just like this, screenshots of the charts and sort of like a little paragraph about what I'm planning on them and all that stuff. And that's completely free. You can sign up for it if you want, and I will just email that stuff to you. So thanks for watching, and hope everyone has a great weekend. I'll see you next week.